Good evening, everyone. Welcome to meeting of New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. We have now summertime. We moved our clock 1 hour ahead, so the days are longer. So let's get started. Just a reminder that our sponsors are the DCFC sponsor, Genesco Sports Enterprises, and at level 2 charge sponsors, we have Sioka Chevrolet of Princeton and Signature Detailing New Jersey. Members of New Jersey EVA get 10% discount when they use the Signature Detailing services. In today's agenda, I will go through appreciation dinner debrief, new members update, some updates from the National Electric Vehicle Association. And since we are getting closer to Drive Electric Earth months, we will go through some opportunities and why should you join these opportunities. We will also have policy update by Ashley Lynn. She's our policy lead, and she's also senior manager of transportation electrification at SEPA. For those of you who are new here, I would like to go briefly about our mission. Our mission is to educate and advocate for rapid adoption of electric vehicles. Electric Vehicle Association is North America's largest nonprofit that accelerates the adoption of electric vehicles by supporting its 100 chapters and thousands of members as they educate their communities about the benefits of driving electric. We are involved in countless initiatives and projects throughout the United States. Our organization is 501c3 nonprofit, which means that all contributions are tax deductible, and we are largely volunteer run. Now let's go to the debrief. And let me tell you, it was a fantastic event. We haven't done this before, so it was for the first time, partly because of our sponsors that I mentioned at the beginning. Originally, our date was set February 11th, but due to the weather, we moved it to February 25th. There were some changes as for who could attend, who could not, but it was kind of flush, and we got 31 people attended. And as a result of this event, we got new members. We got 9 new members during this campaign. And we also had many organizations represented. We got Sustainable Jersey, Charge GVC, Gable Associates, Environment NJ, Mercer County, Lucid Motors, EV Buddy, and State of Charge. The food was delicious. It was provided by Crown of India. And we had EV charging available on premises. And just to repeat, I mean, I'm not saying it here, but we were on premises of NRG Energy, which is energy company located in, at least this site is located in Princeton. So it was fantastic. We felt very secure and welcome. And some of those pictures that you see on the top right, it is our board members. It's myself. Then next to me is Anthony Asuncion, Mario Caballero, Ashley Linqua, Dennis Borzan, Andy Samsu, and Alex Brown. The other pictures are the food and the flag in front of the building. Among our invited speakers were Pam Frank. She's the CEO of Charge GVC, and she's also Senior VP at Gable Associates, and she's board member at Plug-in America. We also hosted Dan Benson. He's former assemblyman, and he's the key sponsor of many EV laws and regulations that really help to spur the registration rate of electric vehicles. Now he's county executive at Mercer County. Doug O'Malley, he's the president of Charge GVC, and he's director of Environment NJ. And also Ashley Lynn, she's our policy lead. And she's also, as I mentioned before, she's also a senior manager, transportation electrification at SEPA. She's actually going to give us policy update today. Unlike the appreciation dinner, this meeting is recorded. So if you were not able to attend, you will have the opportunity to see the recording later. Some of those pictures, we were in Innovation Lab of NRG. This is the food and the people enjoying it. Another picture you can see in the background, in the back is Dan Benson talking with Dennis. Ashley Lynn is talking to Doug O'Malley, and Patsy and David Wang Iverson are enjoying, are loading the plates. Next to them is Linda. Here is also Dan Benson. And many other pictures. Top left, you can see Lucid Motors representative and McSheehy, and also our driver, Lucid Motors, Mike Moy. In the back, you can see David Dragonetti. Top right is the presentation room, and at that moment, Pam Frank was having presentation. Bottom left is during the dinner. The person in the center facing the camera is Ken Hunold. And on the bottom right, the three beautiful people is our Alex Brown, Cynthia Samsu, and my lovely wife, Milena Yarachova. So lots of fun. Now we'll switch gears to membership updates. Since our last update, which was during the meeting, it was less than a month. So we got just one person, new member, Peter Fried. He's at Sustainable Medicine, very accomplished professional. And renewals, Marinus Brockman from North Jersey. Now, I would like to talk about some national updates. You know, we have heard lately how the funding is being cut at the federal level. So we are very fortunate that the national EVA was able to get funding. They did not mention where the funding is coming from, but it's specifically focused for ride and drive events. So for EV shows that have the ride and drive component, if we have ride and drives, we can get some funding. So this is great. And speaking of ride and drives, Generation 180, which is partner to EVA, they have now campaigned 10,000 EV rides to inspire EV owners to give friends, family, and colleagues a first-hand experience in an electric vehicle. You can go to this link, and they have a form that you can complete every time you provide a test drive or ride in your electric vehicle. Also, what was discussed was the relationship between EV community to Elon Musk, because as you know, Elon Musk has departed from being EV friendly to being whatever the description it is. So we want to just stress out people that try to refrain from vandalizing Tesla or superchargers, because after all, Tesla vehicles are highly advanced vehicles. They were designed by people who are genuinely excellent engineers, and many cases environmentally focused. And they do not associate it with what's happening. And of course, the customers, the owners, Tesla owners, they most of them, they purchased the vehicle before Musk got rogue. So just please be patient with that. And yeah, so if you are on the mailing list on Drive Electric Earth Month, they recently released email when they updated the code of conduct. And although they do not make reference to this, we think that it probably is. So just make sure that, and if you experience anything, let us know, because we want to make sure that people behave well. Another great news is that EVA has now new executive director, which you probably heard from the national news. But I just want to tell you that his name is Chris Selleck. He's based in Ohio, and we had already a few occasions of working with him, and he's fantastic. He responds to emails very fast. Also, he helped to move the needle in the financial reporting, because I'm also treasurer for the chapter, and we did not get update from the nationals for a long time. So now we did. So we are in good shape. Another announcement, which you might have heard, is that the annual EVA meeting is coming up. Normally, it is in January, and it's typically in California, or it was also in Texas at some point. But this time, for the first time, it will be on East Coast, and it will be in New York State. It will be in Schenectady on May 2nd to 4th, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So mark your calendars. And as kind of sneak announcement, 2 out of the 8 award categories will go to New Jersey: a Young Professional and EV City of the year. So we are very proud that we have very proactive advocates in New Jersey, and that we are moving in the right direction, even though the state is not exactly doing it lately, as we all know, because I think by now everybody has received a registration bill for our electric vehicles, and there is a surcharge of $250. And after July 1st, it will be 260, etc. Unless there is some change, but that's something that we hope to be participating in, so that it is replaced. Actually, we hope, but we, well, I will leave it up to Ashley. She will give us more update. I'm not the best to make a comment about it. It's just my wish that we do not pay $250 just for having an electric vehicle, regardless of how much we drive. Okay, now I want to talk about Drive Electric Earth Month's volunteer opportunities. I will have to go to this website. But before I go, I just want to mention that there are categories that we are having and stressing out. First responder EV awareness events. We had them before, but now we will have more of them because we are partnering with Easy Ride and also with New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition. Both of these organizations are helping us to get more events. And they're very important because first responders, they need to understand how to handle electric vehicles, that they are different. They need to be educated. And also first responders tend to be in the demographic that are more hesitant to adopt electric. So by having access to them through the awareness program, we can also educate them about the benefits of driving electric. So when you see listing on the Drive Electric Earth Month website or on our website in our calendar, and it says that it's for for first responders. Please sign up. It is very easy. These events are typically up to 2 hours, which includes, warm up and cool down. The actual program is 1 hour presentation for which you don't have to be present. After that, first responders go to the parking lot where the vehicles are being displayed, and they inspect them. They go around, they try to find the disconnect for the high voltage, for the low voltage, and you can tell them, hey, listen, here is the 12-volt battery. For many vehicles, it is easy to locate. For the high voltage battery, they may ask where it is, and I mean the answer is always the same: it's under the floor. But the disconnect points, sometimes, if you don't know, that's fine. This is their responsibility to find out. So there are certain procedures, and they will be trained to find out. As I mentioned, there'll be lots of emphasis on ride and drives. If you are the dealer, please make every effort to bring electric vehicles for ride and drive. Make sure that you bring electric vehicles for ride and drive. We will have always static EV show. And these events are green fairs, sustainability fairs. They are for young people, for old people. We will have, in my town, a green fair organized by the Franklin High School. We will have lots of youngsters, and we hope that we will have Rutgers Solar Racer, very attractive amenity to have. Our events are from south to north in New Jersey, from west to east. So we really want to make sure. Now tell me whether you see this screen. It's coming up. They added extra security, which verifies the identity. Can somebody tell me whether you see the Drive Electric page that I see on the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's the page as you open it. You may notice on top that I'm signed in. Normally it would not be. So let me sign out. So, well, home, when you click home, that's where you would get. Well, the computer is getting a little bit slower today. And here you can type in a zip code. My computer remembers my own zip code, so I'm going to hit it and search. And that shows the events, right? So this one, this is the Franklin High School that I was talking about. It's on May 3rd. This one, Trailside Nature and Science Center, Mountainside. It's on April 27th. And this event is quite long. It's 6 hours plus six and a half. So we are asking that you come for at least 3 hours. And when you come for 3 hours, you will get lunch. This is one of the advantages of county-sponsored events. They are very appreciative of us coming. When you go to that link, it is only text. Later, I'm going to upload map because the location where we were last year has changed. We'll be a little bit north of that. We'll not go into details right now, but this is one. Raritan Township Green Team at Dwoor Farm Market. Those of you who have been to our events in Flemington, it's the same area, it's the same place, but in this case, we would be part of Green Team event. The captain for this event is Mario. So when you sign up, you will be communicating with him. And it is May 4th on Sunday. EV Expo in Madison, New Jersey. The captain is Peter Fried. Again, he knows very well how to do stuff. There will be ride and drives. I'm pretty sure it's on Saturday, April 26th. This is Pennsylvania. Glen Ridge. Okay, that's May 17th. So that's actually not anything that is in May is not a Drive Electric Earth Month, but it's still event, just like any other event. This captain will be Dennis, but I also wanted to have Scott Cohn. He lives in the area and he's going to help out. So this should be great. This is our second anniversary with the Glen Ridge Environmental Commission or Green Team. Montclair Earth Day. So this event is primarily sponsored by Sierra Club, our friends at Sierra Club, Bill Barron. It clashes with Mountainside, so obviously I'm advocating for Mountainside, but if you are from Montclair and you don't want to go to Mountainside, by any means, go there. This one is April 3rd. This is the earliest. This is co-organized with Easy Ride, and this is the Electric Vehicle First Responder Awareness Program. Please sign up. We need lots of various models. For all of these events, I didn't mention it, we are asking the firehouse to offer some refreshment. So in appreciation of volunteers bringing their vehicle. This is on Thursday, April 3rd. It is in the evening. It is labeled at 7 p.m., but volunteers are expected to come at 7:45. I'm going to go to this portal and I'm going to change it because it should be 7:45. Next, Point Pleasant, April 26th, Saturday. It's beautiful area, and we have been there last year. Environmental Commission is very appreciative of us being there. So if you can, if you live in the area or within reasonable in your mind, whatever that means, distance, please come and support us. This one is in East Hampton. This is in South Jersey. It is Tri-County Sustainability Drive Electric Month EV Showcase. The captain is Patrick McDevitt. He's on the call today. This is Sunday, and pretty much annual event in that area. Now, North New Jersey Chamber of Commerce EV Showcase. We don't have a date here. We have a place mark. It is a repeat from last year. Last year it was, I think, April 12 or 13. It was extremely windy, but needless to say, this year it's not going to be in April. That's what we know for sure. Whether it will be in May, we don't know yet. But keep monitoring the website, and when we have more information, we'll update it. Pennsylvania, New York. I think this is it. We have also another first responder awareness program pinned for May 10th in Ridgewood. It's also North Jersey. And there will be another 2 or maybe even 3 later this year. One will be in Essex County. Don't know exactly where. One of those oranges, maybe. So yeah, and it is really more important than ever to come to these events because, as you know, the administration is not in favor of electric vehicles, so we need to step up our advocacy efforts. And we also want to make sure that we use the right wording. In the past, we would associate electric vehicles with environmental protection. Now we understand that those people who accepted that as an argument, they already know. We don't need to tell them. But those who did not accept this argument, they need to hear different arguments. And those arguments that really work are the individual benefits. They really need to listen that our own experience, how much we save money. Those early days when electric vehicles were small, underpowered, and short range, and we were buying them only for environmental purposes, that's gone. Today you can buy very compelling vehicles that do not cost that much than conventional vehicles, and after incentives they're actually cheaper. And obviously, as you know, the use phase is it means substantial saving, particularly if you can charge at home. So we need to emphasize those messages that if you buy electric, you save money, okay, that it's fun to drive, it's convenient, speaking of charging. Um, People may overreact that charging at fast charger takes a lot of time, but they need to understand that most of the time they charge at home, and they need to hear it over and over again, because the repeated messages are what really matters. And if you charge at home, you don't have to worry about refueling on your commute in and out. So those messages. No need to change oil, braking pads, right? No need to go to inspection station. The incentives are getting somewhat weaker, although most of the time it's perceived, because the federal tax credit, it still holds true. It's still there. The administration didn't kill it yet. It has been, it's expected that they will kill it. They started with the NEVI infrastructure funding, and it's on and off, because judge is saying, you cannot just, do this. You cannot cut the funding because it has been appropriated by Congress. So it is becoming very very chaotic. Although I want to say it's maybe less chaotic now, because recently some of the executive orders were rescinded, which it's still temporary, as you know. So and Ashley will hopefully say more about it. So let me go back to.
You're bringing up a lot of really good points, Dan, though. So I was actually going to say really quick while you're navigating back, as part of my policy update, I'm actually going to thread in a couple of points on framing and language as we're kind of talking about how, as electric vehicle drivers and people who are evangelists, kind of talking about the issues as we're kind of trying to talk about electric vehicles to our neighbors, to our friends, to our family in trying times. Because it's not really taking our off the accelerator or just doing something different. So I'll let you finish up with any final thoughts that you have on Dean.
Yeah. Again, go to that website, Drive Electric earthmonths.org. We try to mirror all events on our website. Our website is jerseyeva.org. And on that calendar, the calendar is linked to our Google or Gmail account, which is newjerseyeva@gmail.com. And that calendar is set up such that you should be able to import it and have it incorporated into your personal calendar. I've heard some issues, some glitches. I cannot really verify it by myself because I have both accounts on my device at the author level. But let me know if there are any issues. But you should be able to get the information about those events from multiple sources. So, any questions regarding this? Any questions regarding the national updates, the appreciation dinner, before we go to the policy update? I'm going to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So,
Yes.
Stan, this is Chris Rivera speaking. Good evening,
Yes.
everybody. I'm in fact an old EVer. My husband and I have been having Volts i3s, Teslas now for well over 10 years. One of the things that the old group, one of the old groups that we used to join up with did was we participated in the Cars and Croissants car shows that would take place on Sunday afternoons. Father's Day every year, Summit holds the annual large Cars and Croissants car show. It is, if the EV Association wants to have place set aside for them, I suggest you look into registering now. The space will be limited, but the cars that they have there are amazing. You get a lot of the various car clubs coming in.
Mhm.
We've been parked next to Ferraris. What can I say? But you may want to check to see if the Rivian local chapters will be there, or if any of the other local various chapters plan to be there and plan to have their EVs and perhaps do a bit of a coordination.
Thank you, Christina. These are very good comments. And it reminds me that in the past, we did have many times participation with classic car shows.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I was never the one who was be leading the connection. It was always someone else. And I have to admit my own kind of resistance towards them, because you cannot avoid smelling the gas in those events, particularly from the old engines that do not have even the basic catalytic converter. But you are correct that would you infer that the demographic is the demographic that needs to hear about it, right? Because these are the people who wants to see and who wants to hear, hey, these cars are powerful, they are fun to drive, and by the way, it doesn't cost you fortune to drive them, right? So yes, and I remember we had few times participation at East Brunswick, one of those classic car shows. We have on our roster, Alex is not here, but in Rahway, I think there is some show. Also, Michael Apple got us hooked up to Woodbridge, Woodbridge classic car show. And yes, we need 2 more of those. So thanks for the tip. You mentioned Summit.
Yes.
Okay.
This is held every Father's Day in Summit, New Jersey, unless it's gets rained out.
Okay. Do they?
You're talking well over 200 cars there.
Right. Do they ask for fee?
When we took our EVs, no, we did not have to pay a fee. Now, I
Okay.
do not know if that has changed, but Cars and Croissants did not have a fee that you had to pay.
I'm kind of spoiled because all of our events, we consider ourselves volunteers, and we even if some other vendors pay, we always say that we will not pay, and they are happy with that. So, but I know that in some events, we would probably would not go around without paying. So,
Hey, Stan, do we have a roster of all of the vehicles that we have as people who drive really cool cars? Because while I think, a Bolt is cool or an EV6 is cool, I think having like a Lucid or having something that is a unique electric vehicle would be really cool to bring to one of these things, to show people that like the tech is interesting. It has, instant torque, to show folks that like the tech is cool, they're fun to drive, and that you have unique vehicles that are on the roads right now and they're not golf carts, and to try to reach out to those very specific members who are on our NJEVA roster and say, hey, if you are available, we would love to have you showcase your vehicle at this event. We would love for you to be able to talk about your vehicle and how fun it is to drive and how epic it is. And I think those are the types of vehicles we want to send to something like Cars and Croissants.
Mm. That's a interesting idea. Somebody would have to maintain the list because
I just didn't know if it was attached to our name when we register as NJEVA members, if every single time we re-register, if that is attached to our name and attached to our membership, or if that's not something that's captured every single time we re-up our
So,
membership, if the name of our vehicle is in there.
some people are members, some people who come often to events, they are not members. So I try to upload the information to MailChimp. But then I never try to actually extract it back and try to filter by that field.
At a minimum, the Facebook group has a ton of folks who post about their vehicles frequently, and just the information we had a year ago from the TCF, I think should be enough to be able to get at least a handful of vehicles. So we could talk about this offline and circle back about it later, but I think at a minimum, we could probably name at least 3 separate vehicles that would be considered like interesting to gearheads, that they would be like, wow, that's really cool. Tell me about your car.
Yeah, I was never really motivated to get dedicated list, partly because yes, some vehicles they look sporty and they behave sporty, right? But then there are some, and you mentioned bold, right? It doesn't look sporty, but for how it looks, it actually performs better than it looks like, right? And
yeah, we have to play to the demographic when we go to certain places. So that's why I'm like, if I'm trying to connect to somebody who might be trying to haul equipment or like do certain type of work activities, I'm going to talk about a Ford F-150 Lightning or a Rivian. But if I'm going to a classic car show, I may bring something else and try to like inspire other drivers. So diversity in our group is a really good thing. And if we have some type of list, I know it's hard to maintain, but if we have some type of list, I think it'll be good for us to at least have something. So we can talk about it later. But
you would definitely need to bring pickup truck to those events.
Yeah.
Check with, and that's when you guys need to also cross-check with some of your, with some of the people you know who are at BW or at Ford, have them bringing some of their new vehicles with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for telling us about it, Christina. We sincerely appreciate it.
Oh, and by the way, guys, when I would take my Volt to the car show, it got a lot of traction.
That's good. That's really
because it was the car for the average Joe.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the first generation you mentioned, right?
My Volt, we've had 4. So we ran the gamut from the first generation all the way to the very last ones.
So the one that you have now is the last. Okay.
No, the one we have now is a Tesla.
Oh, so you don't have that anymore.
No, I don't. We gave up our last Volt.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, let's go to the policy update. Ashley, take it away. Do you have any slides? Do you want to share slides?
I don't have any slides right now because the best source of information is going to be that newsletter that everybody has access to. And so I didn't want to create more slides that are just putting content that's already written down into somebody's access. So if anything, go straight to that newsletter that we have access to, and that's going to be the best spot for everybody. So if anything,
well, let me open actually the file because what was sent was trimmed version. So
yes, I was going to say I can drop that directly into.
Go ahead, start speaking. I'm just trying to locate
the chat for everybody right now. Yeah, I'm going to drop the newsletter in for everybody right now. So if everybody is navigated to their chat right now for Zoom, you to see it. And you should be able to see everything in view only mode. But in short, I'm going to go through this and we can kind of walk through it together and kind of demystify what's happening with the mindset that the last time that this was updated was about 2 weeks ago. And then it was sent out a couple days ago. So some things have changed. And it's kind of the reason why I always put this asterisk disclaimer when I'm talking about policy. This administration moves fast. We're moving at an incredible pace that hasn't really been seen before. We have barely gotten past the first 45 days. And so many things occurred, and now we're kind of hitting the 60-day mark almost, and even more is happening. So just some quick high-level things that are not on here. Some executive orders have been rescinded, most notably the one that was addressing DEIJ considerations that indicated that there was a thou shalt stop all work associated with DEIJ activities and put a kibosh on everything that was going on with particular DOE and other types of grants and activities until they were able to look at it again. So just putting that out there that as of right now, certain things are already getting repealed and rescinded, and things are kind of getting overturned as at present. But I'm going to go through things kind of from our local level and then looking at the top and how it's affecting us here in the state of New Jersey, and I'll open it up for questions. So just kind of looking forward now, we have the New Jersey state sales tax. If you haven't heard about it, you should know about it. Previously, all the way back for the last 20 years, literally 20 years, you folks have been exempt from New Jersey state sales tax at a rate of 6.625%. But as of right now, since October 1st of 2024, all the way up until July 1st of 2025, there's currently a reduced rate of sales tax for electric vehicle purchases, all zero emission vehicle purchases actually, of 3.3125%. But that's only until July 1st of 2025. Thereafter, everything that is a zero emission vehicle will be subject to the full 6.625% sales tax moving forward. So that exemption is going away. So that's one thing that we have to be very mindful of. Another thing is going to be the annual electric fee requirement. This is what Stan's been talking about earlier, where when the Electric Vehicle Act was passed back in January of 2020, there were conversations surrounding how do we pay into the TTF? How do we make this equitable for everybody? And we kind of kicked the can down the road. And you'll hear people from Charge EVC talk about this. You'll hear people like former Assemblyman Dan Benson talk about this, that we kind of had this as part of the EV Act, but no one ever did anything about it to say this is what an equitable electric vehicle fee should be in order to kind of have the gas tax take the place. As you start to naturally have less gasoline powered vehicles on the road and more electric vehicles, somebody needs to pay for road maintenance. And nobody said that we didn't want to pay. No one ever said that. I think all electric vehicle drivers recognize that roads and bridges are incredibly important and nobody wants potholes. No one likes that. But there does need to be an equitable amount. And unfortunately, they determined that $250 was the amount. No one really looked into this, did any status update, did any a static update to say this is what it needs to be. They just chose $250. This fee is going to increase by $10 annually over the next 4 years until 2028. So as Stan was mentioning earlier, some of you may have already received those notices in the mail indicating that your $250 is due for your registration. But unfortunately, for folks that purchase a brand new vehicle, that $250 isn't just $250. It's actually $1,000 at the point of sale, because all 4 years need to be paid at the point of sale immediately. And all of that gets placed as a burden upon the driver. So rather than paying an equitable amount, they're making it worse by placing all
Ashley,
4 years registration upon the driver.
Just as a funny comment here, that you get actually deal because you pay $250 for 4 years, right? Not $260, $270, $280. So it is ironically, if you really keep the vehicle for 4 years, you have some sort of a discount, but still, you know, it is just too much. So.
Yeah. And so there's this weird stopgap that's now happening where in order to fill the hole that has been created by the Transportation Trust Fund, there is now a dash to try to figure out how we will be paying for all of the necessary upgrades. So while the gas tax did still go up, so folks who drive gasoline powered vehicles still have to pay something, so that it's not like they didn't have any type of increase. This was what occurred as a function of the electric vehicle side of things. Now, in response, there is a mileage-based user fee pilot by the Eastern Transportation Coalition, which just concluded in January of 2025. And this is exclusively looking at what should electric vehicle drivers be paying in the state? And is there a particular amount that is equitable? And the funny thing is that if you drive 1,000 miles per month, it does in fact equal out to be about $20 a month. in this mileage-based user fee based upon the calculation and the formula that they're doing. You take that $20, you push it out to 12 months, and what do you get? It's $250. So strangely enough, there are some proponents that are indicating that maybe the formula or the calculations that the Eastern Transportation Coalition were using were a little high, and that they think that it should have been lower. Other people are saying, well, I don't drive 1,000 miles a month. I actually don't do the traditional 10,000 to 12,000 miles per year. So what is the equitable amount that this should be? And so results from the study are still pending, and we're going to be getting a readout soon. And so we might find that they overestimated to make sure that it's equitable, and they might find that they underestimated the number of miles that folks are driving. They were also kind of doing a willingness to pay study linked into that. So for folks who are part of the NBUF, the mileage-based user fee pilot, they were asking questions like, is this fair? How much would you pay? Is this better or worse for folks who are in more rural areas or more urban areas? And so they're aggregating all of this information. The preliminary analysis is still underway, but there's going to be a great study that comes out of this. And it's our hope that we're actually going to be able to have more information to hand over to folks like you. And I'll probably give you all an update by email once we have it. Kind of jumping up and kind of looking at other places in the state where things are kind of moving, just so that you have line of sight on it. This doesn't affect you as individuals, so to speak, but it does affect us as a state, how we're kind of addressing electrification and what's happening with our budget. So Murphy and the rest of the team kind of looked at the map and the budget and said, for fiscal year 2025, what are we doing? And they actually said that they're incorporating a corporate transit fee of 2.5% tax on corporate net income over $10 million. What does that mean? Well, for anybody that's a small or local business, well, it means nothing. You're not affected. But in reality, they're actually taxing gambling, alcohol, and other types of activities here in the state of New Jersey in order to make sure that they're filling the gap for things like New Jersey Transit, for entities that for the longest time, they've been told thou shalt by the EV Act back in January 2020, if we take that time machine, for years, that they had to electrify their fleet. But they really didn't have funds or roadmap to know how to do it. So giving those year-over-year requirements for fleet electrification, New Jersey Transit actually now has a pathway to get that done. That means whether you drive a personal vehicle that's electric, or whether you decide to get on a bus, and we now have first and last mile transit, an understanding of whether you want to use mass transit, we're seeing electrification start to take off in other places in the state. So while we kind of have some things that are putting a damper on our personal electrification, we may actually see some fleet electrification take off in the state, and that's a good thing for us. We should advocate for that, and we should champion this. So what's actually happening for us from like our state level for our funding, for the charging stations that we're seeing, what's going on with our funding? Can you plug in more regularly with a charging station that you hope to see on a corner coming to you soon? Your local Wawa, the Walgreens around the corner, that Walmart you really like to frequent. The answer is dubious. The answer is we have funding that the state has arguably dragged its feet on. While other states have been pretty on the nose about getting their funding out there, getting their plans out, and making sure that they can get those stations in the ground. New Jersey has not really done a great job of that. I will be the first to say it, and others have thought this and said those words out loud. It's an unfortunate circumstance. But the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, NEVI, allocated $5 billion to states to kind of do all of this. And right now, $4 billion has already been either spent or legally obligated. It's a good thing. The problem that we're now running into is that while New Jersey kind of was a little late to the game, walked in and said, where's my money? Now that money is kind of tied up. And New Jersey doesn't have the opportunity to access those funds until further notice. At present, the DOT and Federal Highway Administration released a letter titled Suspending Approval of State Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Deployment Plans that indicated basically three things, none of which are good. State Department of Transportation directors were informed that the program is under review, which basically means that they can change it if they want to. Current NEVI program formula guidance that was dated back to June of 2024 was rescinded, meaning the rules are changing and anything that you now were doing under those rules is now no longer allowed to go forward. And then the third thing was that it suspended all prior deployment plans and all fiscal years of funding, and it halted any new obligations under that funding. So if New Jersey was going to get its stuff together and say, I'm ready, I want to put the stations in, now it can't. So while other states were already able to go forth and say that money was legally obligated and contractually required to pay the people who broke ground and put in those stations, they could at least do something and look at the state and go, I need to pay my people. We need to pay these charging station companies. We have to do this. Unfortunately, New Jersey cannot do that because we didn't start anything yet. We didn't start our projects. So at this point, it kind of leaves us in a state of kind of wanting to start something once we actually get any obligation of funds in the future, if we actually can. So at this point, we're going to have to wait until new guidance is issued. That's probably going to be in spring of 2025. The only thing that actually is in our quarter is that we have this lovely thing from the 70s called the Impoundment Control Act, which basically restricts the president from withholding funds approved or appropriated by Congress. And if he wants to challenge the ICA, it would require rulemaking by the Supreme Court of the United States. And while he's tried to circumvent the Impoundment Control Act multiple times with various things, whether it's US aid or other types of agencies, fighting the Impoundment Control Act and getting rid of it entirely is going to cause a really big fight for a lot of folks. So at this point, we at minimum can see that with the way that the funds were distributed for both NEVI and for CFI, we can at least bank on the fact that if we get these funds, we stand to gain a lot. We just have to wait. But now it means that we're sitting on our hands a lot longer. And it means that that really critical infrastructure that New Jersey should have already gotten in the game and started trying to get earlier, now we have to wait even longer with the guidance being rescinded, and it's actually going to get punted down the line a lot further. So if we do end up getting any of this money, we actually stand to gain about $10 million in EV charging for multifamily housing residents. That's going to help low to moderate income neighborhoods, underserved communities, and rural areas. And that's specifically from CFI funding, which is the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program. Specifically is something that can help folks right now, because that funding would probably go out the door faster than NEVI will. NEVI's going to take a lot longer. That's guidance that needs to come down the pipe. That's plans that need to get put into place. That's charging stations and corridors and other types of like community areas that needs to get put out. That's for when folks like you drive around and just need to charge. But when we're talking about multifamily housing residents and people who live in low to moderate income neighborhoods, that means that those folks who go home to charge, it means that we can convert those folks to being an EV driver. It means that those folks who live in multi-unit dwellings can now access electric vehicle charging, and they can be EV drivers too. It's not just folks like us who live in single family homes. So we can start to kind of have more folks in the state of New Jersey start to convert. And so it's a really big thing if we do this. If we're going kind of through the rest of this and we're kind of talking about, well, why are we doing this in the first place? Who's telling us so? Well, the first thing is the EV Act, which I said was signed in January of 2020, that says thou shalt have 330 electric vehicles on New Jersey roads by December of 2025. Where are we? Not close. How are we doing? Not well. And then the second thing is the Advanced Clean Cars 2 Act in New Jersey. And this one is also now kind of tenuous, because if we have the ACC2 program that's crucial in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, because we established that passenger cars and light duty trucks are the largest contributor in order for us to have a reduction in emissions. The problem is that we have access to Advanced Clean Cars 2 because of the California waiver. But if the California waiver goes away, it means that we don't really have any ground to stand on for Advanced Clean Cars 2. So it's kind of a waterfall effect. If California loses its waiver, we can't really push ZEV, which is zero emission vehicle requirements through and maintain those. And then that kind of also tumbles into Advanced Clean Cars 2, which allows us to kind of maintain, uphold things with the DEP. It's kind of a giant waterfall effect of the why behind all regulatory power that allows us to do a lot of the things we do here in the state of New Jersey. And that's powerful and that's important. So we kind of need to make sure that the California waiver doesn't go away and other things. We'll talk about the California waiver in just a second. But the things that we're really trying to push for here in the state is things like RGGI, which is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And that's kind of the very last thing that's holding on for us here in the state to make sure that we can still make things happen, whether or not we have CFI funding, whether or not we have NEVI funding. And now that we're kind of gripping on with our fingertips and saying, we're still in this game, we still have something, please, we need to make sure we do right by our people. And RGGI funding has been in for a while, but we finally have the strategic funding plan, which actually just released. And so if you click into this document and you're able to, click on hyperlinks, I highly recommend that you read it, even if you just briefly scroll through it. But it shows how state revenue from emissions trading is actually going to support clean energy and electric vehicle programs. And this is critically important because without RGGI, we wouldn't actually have really critical funding for the state. We're going to see more things like RGGI probably pop up in other states. But emissions trading is going to be really critical for us because it's not federal dollars that the country needs to designate for us. It's things that we can get on our own by doing emissions trading. That's a really cool thing. And if you guys ever want me to talk about what emissions trading is or what a RGGI is, I'm happy to go into that with more detail. I can really nerd out about it if I want to. So Reggie kind of is my doorway to talking about what's happening at the federal level. And Stan also alluded this to earlier, about the fact that we've got two things that are trying to kind of kick down the door of federal incentives. We've got the Elite Vehicles Act, which is a ridiculous name, but it's the Eliminating Lavish Incentives to Electric Vehicles Act. And it's basically proposing to get rid of the $7,500 federal tax incentive. That's really all that it is. It is a ridiculous thing that I'll say out loud, that they're basically indicating that electric vehicles are luxury products and that we shouldn't be giving an incentive for them. When in reality, electric vehicles are doing so much in order to create access, mobility, energy security, freedom of mobility, all of those great things that a lot of people really need. You're ripping that away if you don't allow people to have these really critical incentives. And then you got the Fair Share Act, which is, congratulations, you had that $1,000 at the point of sale I was talking about earlier with the state of New Jersey. The federal government now wants to make you pay another $1,000 on top of that because of the Highway Trust Fund. So they're trying to add another $1,000 on top of it. So if we have the really awesome Charge of New Jersey incentive that could give you $2,000 at the point of sale as an incentive, you get $2,000 with the left hand, and then New Jersey will take the right hand and take that money right back. Because at that point of sale, you'll have to pay $1,000 for the Highway Trust Fund and then another $1,000 for the Transportation Trust Fund. So the money just washes. It doesn't actually go anywhere and you don't get anything. So it's a really unfortunate circumstance, but that's something that folks really need to be aware of. And then finally, we're going to talk about some EOs. These are executive orders that folks should really be cognizant of. So this is a reminder, blanket statement, executive orders are not laws. If they were, we'd be in a really big amount of trouble because it means that with a swipe of a pen, presidents could do a lot of things. They're scary, but it also means that you can't do anything without congressional action. And that's a really important thing that also puts power to the pen for folks like you to talk to your elected officials, to talk to your Congress, and to really make your voice heard. And it's the biggest message that I always send, because EOs are powerful, but not powerful enough to overturn Congress. And I'll always say that. So one recent order was Unleashing American Energy, which paused federal agency disbursements, but that one is kind of, a little bit in flux because we now had, the repealing of what was going on with the DEIJ stuff. But right now, all of the agencies are currently reviewing and justifying all pending grants, loans, financial disbursements within 90 days. I'm somebody who, in my day job, I just got a notice that under a new MOU, my work is starting again, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. They reviewed everything. So it looks like there's some movement now under a couple different executive orders that things have now been reviewed. They're all kind of going through the wash. So you're going to start to see a lot of this stuff start to affect the electric vehicle industry a lot more. So this is a wait and see kind of thing, but you should be aware of it. And then you've got some fuel economy standards rollback. I put this in here just because you folks need to be, again, aware of it. It is an FYI. In January of this year, the US DOT directed the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, say NHTSA 3 times fast, to review and potentially roll back some existing fuel economy standards. And that would align them with policies from the previous administration. Kind of scary, but that's, if you've ever heard CAFE standards, that's what this means. We're talking about rescinding some really important stuff that would basically talk about, why is fuel economy important? Why do we need zero emission vehicles? What's the point of needing people to breathe clean air? I don't understand. It's people asking some really ridiculous questions, but that basically boil down to, we don't think that we need more fuel efficient or cleaner vehicles for emissions. And it's a really important thing that NHTSA really does need to look at. We're talking about California waiver earlier. This is the section that really goes into it. I have two really relevant links. The first is an EPA transmission of the California waivers to Congress. This is ridiculous. We should have never had to send the California waivers to Congress. There's no precedent for this. And then you also have a New York Times article about the California waivers under threat. That article might be a little bit out of date since I wrote this whole entire newsletter a little while ago. But this basically boils down to the fact that about a month ago on February 14th, the EPA had to send 3 of California's most recent emissions waivers to Congress for review under the Congressional Review Act. But under a 1996 statute that allows lawmakers to assess and overturn rules set by the federal agency, they technically have the right to send those rules over to Congress, but there's no reason why they had to. They had no grounds to do that. While they technically have the right to send certain things to Congress so they can review it and overturn it if they needed to, there's no reason why they had to send the California waivers. There was no precedent to do that and say, we should be overturning these. So it's kind of a sham. And folks are currently in the process of trying to figure out what's the next step. Because again, like I said earlier, it's a waterfall. The California waivers fall, a lot of advanced clean cars 2 rules are going to fall, ZEV standards are going to fall, and a lot of other things are going to be in jeopardy. Other than that, we're also seeing Unleashing American Energy also kind of put into question the endangerment findings. This is important. This is basically the thing that allows the EPA to say, hey, tailpipe emissions are bad and they could potentially give you cancer. This is bad. This causes impacts to human health. This is something that is quite critical for us as the general public, and we should probably do something to make sure that we don't have, you know, increased asthma, reduced days from school and work. And we should probably put our kids on cleaner school buses. If you've heard Doug O'Malley from Environment New Jersey talk at least once, he's talked about children in school buses until he's blue in the face, and it's great. His talks are great. The federal greenhouse gas emission standards for vehicles under the Clean Air Act are really critical, but the EPA's 2009 endangerment findings might get overturned recently, and that's a problem. So it's just something that you should definitely be aware of, and so I put that in there as well. So kind of wrapping up everything from the, hey, at the federal level, these are all of the things that you definitely need to be aware of. I've tried to make this list from a policy perspective as exhaustive as possible, but this is kind of the, hey, here's everything that we need to talk about at a high level. I've already put into the chat, and if you're watching this recording back at a later date and you're just like, I want to get involved, what do I do? One, we need to defend federal electric vehicle in sense. It's super critical, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Your voice matters. One person matters. A single footprint still leaves a mark, and it absolutely matters. So Action Network has some letters where you can already just put in your contact information and it populates all of the information for you. There's phenomenal templates. Stan was talking earlier about Generation 180 and the 10,000 EV rides. You are our best evangelist, but also you're also the best voice for all of this. You're on the ground and you're already in the know about these things. But we also have a Tell Your Lawmakers to Protect Electric Vehicle Rebates template that's already here. Again, you put in your contact information, you identify who your lawmakers are by just putting in where you live, and it automatically populates who those people are. You don't even have to identify them. You don't even have to know who they are, and that'll tell you who they are now. If you want to get creative though, and you really want to, you know, sing your heart out and tell them everything that you think, commoncause.org is a really great tool to find your representative and send them letters. I also use this to find everybody who's on any type of board, committee, in charge of a thing, the person who just wrote that bill. I use that because it'll give me all of their email addresses. Boy, did I write a ton of letters back in February to everybody who is in charge of a committee or in charge of trying to write the Elite Vehicles Act. And I've been writing a bunch of letters since. So I highly recommend you to use these resources. I've already dropped them in the chat. And if you're watching this recording back again later, email me. You have my email. Find me. I'm not hard to find, but I highly recommend you use your voice. We sincerely appreciate all of the work of every single one of you folks as EV drivers, and we appreciate your time being here with us in the NJEVA. But I will open it up for questions now. I know that that was a lot of information, but that's also why I didn't make slides, because this newsletter is the best source of information that I could possibly give all of you, because it's all in one place.
Thank you very much, Ashley. That was fantastic overview. It was dense, but that's how it is, because we have lots of things going on, and
So much.
yeah. So yeah, questions.
I know that was a lot of information. If you all need time to process and then you email me later, I will not be offended.
So
Actually,
yes.
two questions for you. One, do you think the state legislature is willing to listen to having the $1,000 split out over the 4 years? That's question number one. Question number two, as a follow-up, is what about for the cars that are, used cars? Will they also have the $1,000 fee attached to them immediately? Because those, I don't think, get the free ride for registration for a few years. I think you have to get registered every year for those.
So I'll answer your questions in order. So the first one is, do I think that the legislature has appetite to split the $1,000 out over 4 years? The answer is they would have to go in and physically designate that. It means I got to open up the issue back again. And I don't think anybody wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And they're all kind of like this right now. that it's really a question of whether or not we have political will, advocacy, and enough voices during lame duck. If you don't know what lame duck is, I'd say if we take 30 seconds during the next meeting, I can go over political sessions and what things are. But the short answer is between when we elect the next governor and when the next governor gets signed in, lame duck is a magical period. We can make a lot of things happen during lame duck if we try hard enough. So your guess is as good as mine, Christina. I think that if we tried hard enough, maybe during lame duck, we can make that happen if there's enough political will. So maybe. As for used vehicles, no, they're not subject to the $1,000 at point of sale. It is exclusively in the language that the $1,000 only applies to new electric vehicle purchases. It does not apply to leases, and it does not apply to used electric vehicles that you are purchasing that are new to you. That is a used vehicle purchase. They are still subject to the $250, $260, and so on and so forth as it goes up $10 each year. Otherwise, I think that we're now just kind of looking at, whether or not they're going to start to try to apply it thereafter, and try to change what the rulings are if they do end up opening it up, if they're going to make something apply at point of sale one way or another.
Ashley, I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly? You said that it did not apply to new car leases?
No, it shouldn't apply to new car leases. If it's a lease, you don't own it. It's a new car purchase, not a lease. So you should just have to pay the $250 because I have a lease. Did not apply to me. So that is the one way to get around it, but still have to pay a $250 and then $260 and then $270. I didn't have to pay $1,000 at point of sale.
I mean, I've heard of some dealers collecting a full $1,000 on their leases, even if they're not forkers.
There's been some dealers that were finicky about it, and they're like, I don't want to get in trouble and have the state call me for this, so I'm going to collect it just in case. And they gave really bad instructions on how they were going to do it. So right now, it's whether or not the dealership mucked up and they were supposed to do the $1,000 for a lease, or whether or not it was supposed to be collected and they missed the boat and they're now supposed to be looking at them and go, hey, you have to now send a bill to that customer because you're the one who's responsible for this. Dennis, come off mute. Dennis, have a comment or an ad, or did I just see your clicker?
Last year we bought this smart car, the EV, paid them $1,000 and change for the sales tax. Finally got it refunded by Carvana.
I was about to say, is that for the sales tax or for the
Sales
new
tax.
Registration fee?
For the sales tax.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say the sales tax is one thing.
Right. The
Because
dealers,
those are two separate things.
right, but the dealer has no clue what to do. So he collects the sales tax. You can't finish the transaction without paying it. Then his response is, we'll go back to the state and get it. So state's like, you can't get it from us. They never paid it to us. So go back to
Yeah, at that
Carvana
point,
and
when you
finally
bought
get the
that smart
refund.
car, the sales tax hadn't been rescinded yet. They were talking about rescinding and
Correct.
reducing tax,
Correct,
but it
but-
hadn't actually been put into practice yet.
But here you have a national dealership chain that doesn't know that they shouldn't be collecting sales tax. That's literally it. So the registration fee is going to be all over the place too, because what happens is you're buying through a dealership. They're going out and registering, let's say, the vehicle for you and getting you the plates. They're getting you the tags. You're getting everything done by them. They don't know what to do. They literally don't know what to do. So they're just following their template that they do everywhere else. We collect it. And then you can argue with us after the fact.
Yeah.
It just took.
And I think you're
9
hitting the
months.
nail on the head, though, that it's the biggest thing that we can do as an industry. And I can kind of work in like recent learnings is I was recently at the Alliance for Transportation Electrification 2025 annual conference and meeting in Washington, D.C. from March 5th to the 7th. And one of the biggest learnings we had, you just ran into it and said it out loud. There's no cohesion between the user experience, the participant in the dealership experience or the sales experience, but then also the utility experience. that lineage, that thread, there's a disjointedness that's occurring because they can't tell you what your electric rate is and how much you're potentially going to fuel. They don't understand how to enroll you into your local time of use rate for when you get your charger installed. Now, a bunch of utilities will say, whoa, 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 you can't be giving people 19 kilowatt chargers for L2s for people to have in their homes. That's going to mess us up. But in reality, people are like, I can install whatever I want to install. My dealer gave it to me free for me buying this vehicle. I can do what I want. There's no cohesion between what's going on, and people are getting charged for the wrong thing. They're unable to enroll in certain rates. They're unable to have access to things. And they're unable to use technology that they should definitely have access to. So you're definitely running into the exact problem that we've been advocating for, which is we need to have more communication and cohesion between all of these different moving pieces. So you're not getting charged for the things you shouldn't be charged for. So that way you don't have to be the expert walking into your dealership and buying your vehicle. That shouldn't be happening. And that's definitely a frustrating point.
Correct. Their learning curve was about 9 months long. It took
And that's
them,
unacceptable.
yeah, from May of last year until just a couple weeks ago, I finally got the check.
Yeah.
But now apparently they know what they're doing. They finally got it straightened out and internally that they have a procedure and they know what the rules are. And now we've just thrown the rules up in the air again. They won't know what to do again in 6 months.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Any other questions? Well,
So thank you, Ashley, again. It was fantastic. Where is the clap button? We don't have it. Oh, damn. Okay, some of the slides are from last month, but I like it because we really want to show that we have partners. That involves Sustainable Jersey, Sierra Club, Charge EVC, NJ Car. This is the Coalition of Automotive Retailers account dealership association, and then bunch of transportation management associations. I'm working for Easy Ride, one of them. DEP. I'm kind of skipping on BPU, but yeah, that's on purpose. Okay, Lucid, Rivian. This is not Tesla. This is Tesla Owners Delaware Valley Club. Okay, that's the difference. New Jersey Clean Cities, right? Tri-County Sustainability. So lots of collaborations and green teams and environmental commissions. Lots of good collaborations. We have sponsorship options. We have level 1, $500, level 2, 1,000, and DCFC level at 2,000. It comes with lots of perks and advantages, and as you might have noticed, you will be always mentioned during our events. What else do we got here? It doesn't. Am I frozen?
No, I can hear you. We can see you.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So next meeting, so we are skipping April and May, and that's because of the Drive Electric events. We'll be very busy. So mark your calendars, June 10th. It is second Tuesday, always second Tuesday in the month. From 7 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. It'll be Zoom. Link will be announced later. So if you have any no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording now.